Hi, I'm Mrs.D. Math. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be learning how to make a prediction with probability in 7th grade math. So let's go ahead and get started. So in order to make a prediction using probability, let's go ahead and review theoretical probability, which is based on an equally likely outcome, such as when you flip a coin. If you flip a coin 100 times, how many times should you land on heads? Theoretical probability says 50 out of those 100 times. Experimental probability is based on data already collected. Experimental probability says if you flip a coin 100 times, how many times will it land on heads? Depends on your actual data. We can use both of these, theoretical and experimental probability, in order to make a prediction of a real situation. So you might be wondering, what is a prediction? A prediction is an estimate of how many times an event will occur over the number of trials. So in order to figure out the predicted outcome, we're going to take the probability and multiply it by the number of trials. This is going to work for theoretical or experimental probability, but predicted outcomes are still always going to be an estimate, not a guarantee. So let's see how this works with some examples. We're going to start with theoretical predictions. So the probability when I flip a coin of landing on heads is 1 out of 2, because I have 1 heads on a coin with 2 sides. That's going to give me 5/10, which is going to equal 50%. What would be your theoretical prediction if you flipped a coin 80 times on how many times you should land on heads? And I'm going to take my 1/2, my chances of landing on heads, times 80. So that's going to end up being 80 divided by 2. So that gives me 40 times that I should land on heads if I were to flip a coin 80 times. This one's a little bit easier because we do know that heads is going to be half the time. So when you're dealing with coins, your theoretical prediction should always be half of whatever your total number is in order to land on heads or tails. Now let's look at if we're going to roll a die. So the probability of rolling a 3, I know my sample space is 1 through 6. So that would be 1, 3 out of 6 possible numbers on the die. Then I can make that into a decimal, so that is 0.16 repeating, which gives me approximately 16.7%. What if you roll a die 120 times? So in order to find out the prediction, if I were to roll a die 120 times, I'm going to take my fraction, 1/6, and I'm going to multiply that by 120. When I multiply times a whole number, I can put that number over 1 to make a fraction. So then I'm going to multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator, and then I just want to divide that to reduce it. So 6 goes into 120 20 times. So that means that if I were to roll a die 120 times, I should theoretically land on the number 3 20 times. Let's take a look at a spinner. So if I were to spin a 4-part spinner, what is the probability that I would land on blue? Again, my sample space is 1 of each color, so red, blue, green, and yellow. That means that I have 1 blue out of 4 colors. That gives me 25 hundredths, which equals 25%. We want to know, what if I spin it 60 times? How many times do I predict I would land on blue? Again, we're going to take 1/4 times 60. So that equals 60 divided by 4, which equals 15 times. So based on my theoretical probability, the prediction if I were to spin the spinner 60 times is I would land on the blue 15 times. Because each part of my spinner takes up the same amount of space, that means that each color should land 15 times if I were to spin the spinner 60 times. What about making predictions when I'm using experimental probability? So let's take a bag of marbles. In 40 draws, red was drawn 12 times. Predict how many marbles will be red in the next 200 draws. So I want to find the probability of drawing a red marble out of 200 draws. So first I need to make my fraction based on what actually happened. I landed on red 12 out of 40 times. So this goes back to our experimental probability. If you missed that video, you can find that linked below. So I could reduce my fraction. I'm going to reduce this by dividing by 4, so I have 3/10. Now that I've reduced my fraction to 3/10, I could either multiply this times 200, which is going to give me the same information as last time, but there is another way I could set this up. I could make a proportion. So I could say 3/10 is equal to the number of red out of 200. And based on this experiment, I'm going to increase everything. So what I'm doing is I'm going to set my 10 times x equals 3 times 200. So I know that 10x equals 600. So x, when I divide by 10, equals 60. So that means out of 200 draws, I should draw a red 60 times. Is this going to actually happen? I don't know. It could. We did an experiment and drew a marble 40 times, and we kept the data. Red was drawn 12 times. So we're using that information to predict how many times we would draw a red out of the bag if we drew 200 times. Let's look at another experiment using a spinner. Out of 50 spins, green was landed on 15 times. Predict how many times it will land on green in the next 300 spins. So again, we want to predict how many times we're going to land on green this time. I'm going to go ahead and set up my fraction from my formula based on the numbers. So 15 times landed on green out of 50 spins. Then I can reduce that. I'm going to divide by 5, so that equals 3 out of 10. So now I'm going to use my 3/10, and I'm going to set up my proportion based on what if I spun it 300 times. So now I'm going to put x over 300. X represents the number of times I land on green. Then I can cross multiply. So 10 times x equals 3 times 300. And then I'm going to divide by 10 on both sides, so that equals 90. If I were to spin the spinner 300 times based on my experiment, I should land on the green 90 times. So let's take our theoretical versus experimental and let's compare them. Using theoretical probability, I'm going to land on heads 1 out of 2 times, which is going to be 50 out of 100 times if I were to flip the coin 100 times. If I ran an actual experiment and that experiment came out that I landed on heads 46 out of 100 times, it's not always going to be the exact number because theoretical outcomes are when everything is fair and it's always going to be equally likely. Whereas in experimental probability, you have real data, what actually happened. So let's look at what might happen in the real world, and we call this random sampling. So what happens is we take information from a small sample. So here in a school survey, out of 40 students, 14 prefer math as their favorite subject. If the school has 600 students, how many do you predict would prefer math? So I'm first going to set up my fraction using my formula. So if 14 students prefer math out of 40 total students, then we're going to reduce that. So I can divide both of those by 2. That means 7 out of 20 students prefer math. Then I'm going to use that data and I'm going to see how many students would prefer math out of 600 students. So 7 out of 20 is just our baseline. This is called random sampling because we did not ask every single student in the school. We only asked 40 of them. You have to make sure that your sample is random, which means it's going to be a small group chosen from a large population where everyone has an equal chance of being selected. So I would assume these 40 students included all grade levels and also different teachers. So not everybody was with the same teacher and not everyone was in the same level of math. Now to solve this proportion, I could use my cross products, but I could also look for a simpler way. And I can see that 20 goes into 600 times 30. So on the top, I'm going to multiply 7 times 30. 7 times 30 equals 210. So based on the information that we collected, I can assume that 210 students out of 600 would prefer math. So let's look at another real-world situation. And after inspecting 80 items at a factory, 6 are defective. How many do you predict will be defective if the factory produces 2,000 items? So here we have even larger numbers, but let's go ahead and set up based on our inspection. So 6 were defective out of 80 items. I can go ahead and reduce that by dividing them both by 2. So 3 out of 40 items were defective. Then I'm going to go ahead and set up my proportion. So I want to know how many would be defective out of 2,000 products. This is a much larger number, and we did a larger sample. So whenever you're doing a sample, you have to make sure that it's random and large enough to make a reliable prediction. So just like the last problem, I can see that 40 goes into 2,000 50 times. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 50 on top to get 150. So I can assume based on the data collected from my random sample, 150 items would be defective. Remember that predictions are estimates. They're not always going to be a guarantee. But you should understand that the larger the experiment or sample, the closer to the prediction that you have based on theoretical probability. So just because we were to actually inspect 2,000 items in this situation does not mean that 150 of them would be defective. But we can predict that it's going to be about 150 based on the number that we have already inspected. Thank you for joining me today on learning how to make a prediction with probability in 7th grade math. I'm Mrs.D. Math. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Have a great day. Bye.